today, and the intricate digital choreography that is going to ensue this morning. And then we will be breaking up into our own respective groups this afternoon. Thank you very much to Josh Klingbeil from our IT staff. He's our IT director, and also to Mike and Benji from the Northern Waters staff. We are pleased to offer this opportunity through mini grants from the Division for Libraries, Department of Public Instruction, through the LSTA program. All right, well, basically, Josh said, I'm going to tell you about the video we're going to see. We're going to look at the video, and then we're going to come back together for discussion. And because the video doesn't like simulcast format, we're going to break so that we're each showing that video at our own location and then think back for discussion. Okay? All right, so it's unfortunate that the first speaker that we had lined up for months decided that he could not be with us this morning due to scheduling conflicts, but being librarians and being very resourceful people, we found two national speakers who are well known for their work in digital citizenship that will be coming to us via TED Talk video from YouTube to talk about the ways in which we should be considering our audience as we plan our programs in our own library. What's interesting is that these two speakers will be challenging us to bring the young digital citizens themselves into the conversation. And I like the quote by Ann Collier, who is the first speaker, where she says that we need to be mindful that young people want to get as far away as possible from scared, controlling adults. So it's not enough for us to be hearing the fears and the apprehensions and anxieties expressed by the adults that are in our constituencies, the parents, the grandparents. But we also need to be mindful of how this topic of digital citizenship and digital safety appears to the youth themselves. They may, and most likely do, have different concerns than the adults in their lives. And we think that our two YouTube speakers this morning, our two TED Talkers, will give you some provocative things to think about, especially as we move into our afternoon session with all our law enforcement personnel. Okay, so hit the button, Josh. I'm anxious to find out what you're thinking. It's hard, it's like pushing the pause button. You will find in your folders a piece of paper that has information about both of the videos and some of the resources. And you will also find in your folders two separate tips lists. The 10 tips is from Ann Collins, who we just heard, and the 3 tips handout is from the person that's doing the second video that we'll be seeing this morning. Okay, this is going to be a little interesting, and if I'm turning my back on anybody at any time, I apologize in advance, but I'm wondering what our thoughts are after seeing that video, and I feel as though I should let our guest in Ashland take the first shot at that. So anybody, Ashland, start the comment section.
I like the fact that you wanted the kids to have the input. I think that's really important. That if we do any kind of presentation to patrons, we involve the kids' opinions at the very minimum, if not involving the kids themselves.
Okay, thank you. Any response from the WASA group? What are you thinking? Yes, go ahead.
Well, I really liked it. I thought I was actually kind of concerned that, like, when I signed up for this, like, oh, this isn't going to be like just, you know, tell the kids to like beware of the predators. And it's like, because I think that connection that kids have now is so important. When she talked about how all these measures of like societal problems like depression and things have declined. I mean, I don't know that you can credit that all to the internet, but I think that's been a big reason, because I think a lot of kids who are who are different in some way, or just need to find a source of connection or common ground with people that they might not have around them. That's been like a huge like a huge change that this is now people have access to this. So I mean, I think it's really important just to like not like scare kids, but like try to teach like how to be safe, but still maintain like this life online that you can have because there's
giving them the tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's toss the ball back to Ashlyn. Another comment?
Well, I'm curious about what she meant by guided practice. She spoke in a lot of very general terms about digital citizenship, and I understand the 5 ways that adults can assist is where her focus was, but I'm not hearing enough any practicality. I think probably going to look at the research links. The one that stood out to me is the Tough Intelligence for Parents, the second link, netfamilynews.org, and I thought, well, maybe I'll find some ways of managing guided practice.
Are there any thoughts in LASA about how we might make that definition ourselves? How do you see guided practice?
I think for me, I think it's really important to have buy-in from the team. So utilizing your teen advisory group to say, hey you guys, let's talk about this. What kinds of programs, or here are some options. I know my kids are much better if I give them options rather than an open-ended question. Hey you guys, here are some options. What works for you? How can we as librarians and libraries as safe places help you build those communities of similarity so that you feel comfortable talking to other people who might be like you, might have the same challenges that you do, but aren't physically sitting next to you in the classroom. How can we help you build that? And then we can help with guided practice. So I think we have to follow the team's lead rather than us coming from the top down and saying this is what we're going to do.
Okay. Any additional comment or response in Ashlyn?
Well, I think kids start off with a feeling of great confidence about themselves, and it's kind of like adults get out of my way. I'm perfectly capable of working on the internet, communicating in my social groups in the manner that makes me comfortable. I don't need you to teach me social literacy skills or digital literacy or media literacy. I think sometimes kids find themselves saying, I can teach you more about that than you can teach me. And so I'm being a little bit negative here because I'd like to stimulate some conversation about that. So many times people will say, have the kids come in and show you how to do this. Have your teen group teach you. And I think maybe that's the crux of what Ann Kohler is talking about when she's discussing agency.
What if it was a mentoring situation?
Yeah,
maybe teens to talk to younger kids.
There you go.
And they might be more, obviously they'll be more open to hearing things from teenagers, because 13 is when they're like, yes. But they're going on Instagram and stuff earlier because they can.
Yeah.
And teenagers are teaching them how to do it. So maybe if we could somehow inspire the teenagers to take more of a mentoring, and I think if you offer a caretaking role, frequently teenagers will step up. So maybe that would be a workaround, so to speak, to get the teens thinking that they should protect the younger kids. Let's help them, let's teach them how to protect themselves, and then maybe some of it's also going to get through to the teens.
I was going to pick on Nan a little bit because we know each other from our past lives when Nan was the media director for the Rhinelander School District, and I was at the Rhinelander District Library. So I thought that I was hearing a school perspective, and we also we have a school librarian in our midst, and I'm wondering if you have anything that you'd like to just, I'm putting you on the spot, I know. Would you like to jump in at all and talk about this from a school perspective? What's your reaction?
Well,
I teach some of this at 4th, 5th, and 6th, but like she was saying, it's a much larger. You put digital citizenship out there. It's more than just one thing. There's more than one literacy there. So I have to do it because of E-rate. So our schools have to be, doing something about bullying and online. Our students are online, so we have to give them some type of classes for this because of E-rate. I was just talking to our public librarian here, and she, thinking about a teen advisory board that possibly you could get together for your public library, or I even was thinking maybe talking to my high school students about what should I be talking to my 4th, 5th, and 6th graders about, what would be more, what's more in the news, what's more that they should be, I should be working with them on, or should I be working with just asking the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders what?
That's Mary Kay from Loyal Public Schools, who's here with her library director as a team, anticipating the collaboration to follow after this training. Julie, did you have another comment?
I'm just going to jump in and say I love the idea of asking your team, what should a 4th, 5th, or 6th grader know? I think that will really build agency in your teams, and it will help your 4th, 5th, and 6th grader take you a little more seriously when you say, hey, your teenager, your older siblings or your older peers say these are things you should be thinking about. The other thing is, I think I'm going to circle back, and one of the questions that she had was, if you see something bad happening, what do you do? And I think that's a really important question for us to ask teens and adults. If you see something bad happening online, where do you go? How do you reach out? Who do you contact? How do you help solve the problem rather than perpetuate the problem? And I think that's another place where we can help teens build some agency and learn. They may have all of the social skills and all of the digital literacies that we don't have, but they don't have the life experiences of being able to find a trusted adult or know someone that they can talk to. So I think it's really important for us to be able to say, hey, these are people you can talk to. We're here to help. So I think that it's important to look at it both ways, that we have life experiences that they may not have, and we need to be sharing those and helping them along.
So basically what we're hoping to do is combine their perspective and their creativity with our wisdom.
Yes.
And that is not an original thought to me. That you'll see in the second video. Okay. Any other comments from Ashlyn? I've tried to toss the ball back and forth.
Well, I think from a public library perspective, and I'm sorry, Shelley, were you going to? No. That, this is Nan again. I actually see kids coming in with their parents and parents shepherding them, I guess I would say. And I'm talking about the younger end of this, the 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old. Parents are very careful with their kids when they are brought to the library, even when it comes to accessing our databases, our BadgerLink databases online. That means authenticating using a card. And that is where I see parents being very careful what their kids are getting into. And I appreciate that concern. And I think that our role in the public library is to be true to what our parents are expecting when it comes to guiding our young people, our youngest I'm looking at in this case. Not our, high school seniors and juniors who are really on well along their way to adulthood.
I'm not seeing the shepherding.
You're not seeing the shepherding.
Not, we're in different communities.
Yeah.
I'm seeing dropping them off at the computer or they walk in on their own.
Okay.
So I think sometimes, I think that's the best case scenario when they're shepherding. And that's what we kind of what we want, and then we want to educate the parent as to how to shepherd effectively. And but I think we also need to bring awareness to the ones who think they're fine. They don't know how to find anything bad anyway. Oh, they're only on whatever, and I've set it up so it's good. I think we also need to educate the ones who aren't aware of what's happening. I think that best case scenario is what the parents you're talking about, but I'm not seeing a lot of those parents at my library, unfortunately.
And those are often homeschooling parents.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing me walking in on their own, or parents are sitting next to them at a computer, but they're in a, they're in their own little world and they're not interacting.
Yeah.
So I think that those parents also need to be aware and not scared, but just they need to be aware of what their kid's doing, how to figure out what their kid's doing, and how to educate their children as to what the ins and outs are. They're pretty much self-taught in all this social media.
Yeah.
So,
and it leads me to thinking, well, whatever we put together, I don't think it should be just kids alone. I think parents and adults need to be invited to be part of our conversation.
Yeah, I was assuming we were targeting parents, yeah. But that's why I think it'd be good to have kids involved, older kids, whether that's through an anonymous Google survey or something, because they're the ones who know what younger kids can get into because they know what they've already gotten into. And so it'd be very interesting to know at what age they went on different social medias, as long as this was anonymous. Send it out to a high school, and have one instructor or whatever on your team. Get it out to the high schools, or whatever schools in your district, and what age were they on the different social medias? Did their parents know? What have they seen that scared them? What did they do? Did they tell anyone? Have they, things like that? It'd be very interesting to know, because then we could kind of go off of that and tell parents, look, this is what's happening. Don't be scared, but let's figure out how to teach your kid how to deal with it.
Okay, I'm going to break in here, and I'm going to ask the WASA group, someone that was not heard from yet, a reaction to anything that's been heard so far, or do you have a different concern, a different observation based on what we saw? Michelle.
This is very interesting. Just within the last week, a teacher at our elementary school, who is a friend of mine on Facebook, she has a 6th grade daughter, and the mother posted on Facebook, okay, 6th grade parents, should I let my daughter have Facebook? Should I let her have Instagram? Should I let her have Snapchat? And I've been following it, and I was really very surprised at the teenagers who are saying, no, do not let her have it. Do not let her have Facebook. Do not let her, use Snapchat. Keep her as young as you can, and these teenagers were 19, maybe 18 and 19, friends of my oldest child. So I was very interested to see that. And, I think that's exactly what I would like to see in our community, is that kind of open discussion about, why not, and at what age do these teens suggest. And it was a surprise to me that they said no to Facebook. Some of them said, no, absolutely, don't let her get Facebook, too much drama. But yes, okay with Snapchat, because I was under the impression that Snapchat was, because it disappears and it was a scary thing, that was a surprise to me. So
Interesting. Before I toss the ball back to Ashlyn, anyone else in the WASA group that has not spoken yet that would like to either react to Michelle's comment, or if you have one of your own on a different act. So little Josh in the corner is raising his hand.
So I'm going to stand up so they can hear me over the phone. I wrote up some bullet points because I had no idea whether or not conversation would go as well as it's going, and I wanted to have a couple of feeders for discussion and dialogue. But as I'm hearing both sides talk about this one bullet point is really resonating with me. Now, I'm 37. So you didn't know that, now you do. And I'm one of the oldest people I know that grew up, quote unquote, with the internet. I was 12, I think, when I was first introduced to the internet and BBC chat and stuff like that. And so I had my formative teen years learning about that. Not earlier, unfortunately, or fortunately. And so I take that experience and I bring that home now with my 3rd grade daughter and my not yet born, T-minus 10 weeks from launch son. And I've been going back and forth with protecting them from everything, to just watch everything they do so I can intervene at a moment's notice, to letting them do their own thing and helping them when they ask for it. And I did. I grew up with the internet, but I didn't have any mentors in that space. I learned everything about being an online citizen that I learned all by myself, and unless you count the people on the other side of the screen, and I guess now that's kind of the thing, right? We are counting the people on the other side of the screen. It's all social. It wasn't Facebook back then. It was web-based chat systems that you had to keep clicking refresh on in order to actually see what people were saying. But it's the same concept. And though it's scary sometimes, I do realize that they can do what I did, with or without me, and they often will, whether I try to stay in control of their experiences or not. So maybe simply being there as a resource, available to them, versus being a barrier or even a creator or cultivator, will be all they need. And I just wanted to find out what you guys thought about that.
Let's toss the ball back to Ashlyn. And before we do that, I just want to say that I do think that the second video will further explore ways in which the creativity of the youth that we serve can be amazing and can inform adults. So let's go for about another 5-10 minutes, and then run that second video and see where we're at. Because Aaron Berman, our second speaker, is planning on coming in at 11, and I do want to allow enough time for recess. So back to Ashlyn. Who's here to comment? Who haven't we heard from yet?
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, speaking as an older person, I kind of resisted doing a lot of the Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff that my kids do. They know a lot more about members of our family and I guess everybody else in the world than I do, because I don't, it's like, that stuff is, it's not worth my time, but I think I've already decided I better get with it, see what's out there. Maybe I'll be terrified, maybe I'll be pleased, probably somewhere in the middle, but I think I'm going to be up for the adventure.
Thanks, Pat. Anybody else in Ashland? I'll give you another turn.
This is Shelley talking, and I think it was interesting to note too that Josh, the former speaker, was saying he's in his 30s and kind of grew up with, learning and not having a mentor as far as the internet. And Pat next to me is in a different generation, and it's just really interesting and also noteworthy to figure out which, where everyone is in perspective to the internet, and how we can approach each generation and how we can learn to use that. As far as another interesting thing is my age, in my 40s, and I just feel like the onslaught, and she did talk about that, as far as we have to be able to think critically and also be able to filter out all of everything that's coming at us. And I think that's really important for the younger generation too. They just have fatigue. So maybe that's why they were saying to stay away from Facebook a little bit for the younger folks, because there's just so much out there.
Okay. I think that we should run the second video, and then whatever time we have left for discussion after that, we can combine comments about both. I mean, maybe the second one will give you some ideas and some connections that you didn't see in the first showing. So take it away, Josh and Mike. Okay, I think we're both back. Reactions. Let's toss it to our guests first. Ashland, reaction to that?
I loved it.
Thanks, Pat. Anybody else on your side of the digital wall before I go to the WASA group?
What I liked is the idea of working with the kids to come up with solutions that weren't technology-based. The one that stuck with me was the one where you guide the child to think about and visualize that the person they're trying to communicate with is having dinner or shooting basketball in the backyard with their dad. I really like that solution.
Okay, thanks. Wasa, comments? What do you think, folks? Somebody we haven't heard from yet? Ralph? What's your reaction?
I'm glad I saw three.
I don't know if they heard that, Ralph.
You know, it sort of brings home something that just seems to me to be more and more part of the world. These cultural layers, technology layers, they seem to make common sense a more and more obscure thing. And I don't mean that pejoratively, I just mean it as an observation. You know, a lot of these things, you know, the quiet time where we're on the porch, having a glass of iced tea and talking about life, that just kind of screams by now. And so these little morsels of mentoring and bringing someone into the real world gradually, they seem to me to be more and more challenging.
Okay.
That's not going to help anybody, but it sure does seem to me to be more.
When the first time I saw this, what struck me was that mentoring is a two-way street. And that it isn't just from the older to the younger, it's the younger to the older. It percolates both ways. Anybody else around the WASA table? Ladies from Rhinelander?
Well, we have the app of, I have a son with autism, but he wanted Facebook. And I said, okay, we have the app of before you post anything, you show mom what you're going to post. And that works, but, you know, for how long? 16 now, so, you know. What I think was really important that I took away from that is the idea that we need to be thinking about them and helping them guide their thinking. So I think, you know, where they had the kids invent these applications is sort of a scaffolding for then the next step, which is, okay, so we can't really invent that application. What can we do right now in real life to make that happen? And so I love the idea of, you know, that she kept going on about how empathy is really the application. We need to be modeling for the kids as well. Hey, I know sometimes that when I want to talk to my sister, she's sometimes also making dinner and doing all of these other things, but I really wish that she would be paying attention to me and talking to me. And so I understand how hard it can be to ask somebody to say, hey, can you just stop what you're doing and talk to me for 5 minutes? Or, hey, we're in the car together and I'd love to have a conversation with you, but you're talking to your husband on the phone at the same time. And it's really hard to make those personal connections when that's going on. And so teaching kids to be empathetic and to be understanding on both sides of the street, to say, hey, you know what, I don't see my sister but twice a year. I get to talk to my husband every single day. So maybe I should put down the phone and talk to my sister because I don't get to see her that often. So we need to be the people that guide that. And even as adults, we have to work on the same thing because we're in the same boat. So often, you know, I go places a lot by myself, and I see 4 or 5 people sitting together and texting, and I'm like, what's so important? Why can't you stop and talk to the people that you're sitting next to? I don't get it. So I think that everybody needs to work on that empathy piece, not just our kids. So that's my piece.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Anybody else here?
You know, I had to chuckle because so years ago when my son needed to be picked up from like a late night football game or something, you know, he would text us and say, we'll be at the school in 10 minutes. Okay, so then to the school and we wait 10 minutes. And there were some times when I was like, I know he's here because he told me 10 minutes, you know, and this whole empathy thing, because I think about my parents who they didn't get that text. They had like an hour where they had to sit there, you know, and so I have to talk myself down and I have to say, okay, he's, you know, talking with his friends and, you know, it's just a very interesting thing that we have to think about. Being more, you know, you know, that technology is great because now I know exactly when the bus is arriving, but that technology is bad because now I know exactly when the bus is arriving. You know, so it's
the good news and the bad
yeah,
news.
it's a very interesting, and I like that because it says not only is mentoring a two-way street, but empathy is a two-way street. And I think sometimes adults don't feel like we offer empathy to, I mean, I see adults and they pull their kids along or whatever, and we're really not giving them the chance to pause and say, hey, Mom, I need this, or we need to talk, or whatever. So I love that idea that empathy really is a two-way street.
Okay, I think we should go for about another 5 minutes and then do a break and a reset. So, Ashlyn, any further thoughts? Run it back to Walter. Anybody else at this table we haven't heard from yet? Ashley?
I'm really quiet. I can speak up. All this really hits home because, one, I have an 8-year-old, and a 9-year-old, and this summer she wanted a cell phone. Her dad said he's getting her a cell phone. I'm completely against it. I've been preserving the whole, I don't want you gaming every day. Like, we play outside. We have tea parties. I love that. I was completely against it, and of course, in a room full of adults, I'm what? You're getting her a cell phone, and they all look at me like, well, everyone has one. She has 2 cousins that are 8 and 9, and they all have cell phones. Am I the only adult that finds this absolutely just crazy? And of course, with cell phones, you have the apps, and they're all on Snapchat. And Snapchat has these filters where they're unicorns and all of these fun little kid things, and there's kitties and so on. So I don't know what the parents are thinking, but then on the other hand of this, like, I'm 25. I've had computers since kindergarten, and I was the first one to have a cell phone, and it was the first camera phone, even better. But I didn't have any problem like this. I had friends who were looking for trouble in chat rooms, and I would see this, and it was inlaid in me that that's not what I was there for. So I think the apps that she's talking about, I love them, and just getting out to parents, putting this, you know, the kids this young are having cell phones and this like that. I don't know what the parents are thinking at all. So I mean, I think relaying to them resources, putting the idea out there.
Well, and they're going to, the parents that are faced with the questions, such as Michelle relayed from her Facebook encounter, and Ashley just mentioned being in a room full of friends and relatives where they were asking this question as to how young and then what. I mean, those are certainly questions that are going to be brought to our libraries, and that is certainly one large area of discussion that we can both anticipate and use to the benefit of both the adults and the youth. So certainly this is an area that we are going to need to be thinking about, and thinking about the resources that we want to bring to bear, so that they leave with, if not exact answers, at least some resources that will guide them to making their own best decision for their own situation, which is, after all, what we do in youth departments every day when it comes to print and media resources, because, you know, we try to present an array of choices. We try to talk to the parent's comfort level and the child's need, and we try to get the two of them together in a way that makes sense in that particular household, whether or not it makes sense to the house that's next door. And really, these resources, if you remove all of the layers of what this is and how different it is, you can also find similarities in the way that we promote our information about certain choices that are out there. Does that make sense? So with that as the self-defined last word, I'm going to release you for 15 minutes, get snacks in your respective locations, and Josh and Mike will get set for Aaron Berman, who will be joining us live from San Jose at 11.